When we try to picture a smart person, we usually imagine someone like this: the person who speaks with absolute confidence, the person who knows the most facts in the room, the person who always has an immediate answer. But relying on what someone already knows is often exactly where we get it wrong. Intelligence is revealed by repetitive behavioral patterns: the same reaction, the same mistake, the same rigid opinions. These habits fly under the radar. They look normal until you know what patterns to look for. And once you understand those patterns, you start noticing them everywhere. The purpose of recognizing these patterns isn't to judge your coworkers or family members. The uncomfortable truth is that you probably have some of these habits too. True intelligence operates as an active daily mechanism. It shows up in how you regulate your behavior, handle uncertainty, and update your beliefs. Imagine someone makes a harmless comment. Immediately, the person they're talking to takes it personally. A tiny disagreement escalates into an argument. A small inconvenience turns into a meltdown. There is almost zero space between what happens and how they respond. This diagram shows what that immediate response looks like. A trigger happens here, and the reaction hits right next to it. What's missing in that tiny gap is the ability to pause. Cognitive control is how we regulate our impulses and evaluate information before we act. A reactive mind assumes that if it feels a certain way, it must be true. A thoughtful mind asks, why am I reacting this strongly? Intelligence is the ability to interrupt an automatic answer. That pause might only last a few seconds, but those seconds dictate the outcome. When you lack the ability to pause, you become predictable, and that leads directly to repeating the exact same mistakes.
Think about someone who repeatedly chooses the same kind of bad relationship or makes the same financial error. Every single time, the excuse changes, but the pattern remains. Everyone makes mistakes. The distinction lies in what you do with the failure. Experience gives you raw information. Reflection is the process that turns that information into a lesson, and that lesson is what updates your behavior for the next time. Without that process of reflection, experience becomes nothing more than repetition. You can live through the same problem 10 times and extract nothing from it. Reality is complicated. Decisions involve competing factors, but the human brain craves an easier path. Good, bad, right, wrong, us, them. Compressing complex problems into simple black and white answers removes the burden of uncertainty. Simplicity rarely equals accuracy. Mature thinking requires cognitive flexibility, the ability to hold several competing possibilities in your head at once. Deep thinking often produces a better question instead of an immediate, simple answer. This chart shows the Dunning-Kruger effect, a cognitive bias where people with very limited knowledge struggle to recognize their own limitations. Confidence peaks precisely when actual understanding is at its lowest.
The danger is being confidently wrong without realizing it. Pretending you already know the answer creates a closed loop. Because you assume you understand, you stop questioning. Because you stop questioning, you stop learning. Your understanding stays trapped within that initial spike of false confidence. You see this loop most clearly when something goes wrong. One person immediately looks for someone to blame. The system is unfair, or they ruined it. An intelligent mind bypasses blame and asks a much harder question. What is within my control right now? Blame is a shield to protect the ego. Analysis improves the future. To accurately understand the pattern producing your bad outcomes, you have to let go of the comfort of being right and focus on what the failure can teach you. Try sitting alone in a quiet room without your phone. No music, no notifications, just silence and your own thoughts. For many people, that feels agonizing. Scroll, swipe, switch, check, repeat. Poor attention regulation actively works against deep thinking. Understanding a difficult book or a complex problem requires sustained patience. You need mental space to follow a single idea beyond the first few seconds of discomfort. When that mental space is gone, cognitive rigidity takes over. Someone hears an unfamiliar idea and immediately says, "That's stupid," or "That can't work." They evaluate their own initial emotional reaction to the idea rather than the idea itself.
A rigid mind protects its existing mental model by asking, how can I prove this is wrong? A flexible, intelligently skeptical mind asks a much simpler question, is this true? Almost every serious idea deserves examination before you reject it. If you are unwilling to tolerate the temporary boredom of deep focus or the challenge of testing a new belief, your knowledge hits a hard limit. Your understanding can only grow to the boundaries of what you already believe, keeping you confined to a small world. These habits don't permanently define anyone. The brain is adaptable. Attention spans can be rebuilt. Emotional regulation can be practiced and improved. Rigid beliefs can become flexible. The real test is turning the lens on yourself. Do you react quickly when attacked? Do you repeat mistakes and blame? Do you oversimplify complicated problems? Can you say, I don't know? Do you analyze problems or simply assign blame? Those questions are uncomfortable to answer honestly, but sitting in that discomfort is where intellectual growth begins. The strongest indicator of intelligence is the willingness to discover that you might be wrong. So don't use this list to start diagnosing the people sitting across from you. Watch your own patterns, catch your own automatic reactions, question your own assumptions before you project them onto reality. Intelligence is a daily practice. Every time you pause instead of reacting, or question instead of assuming, you are training your mind. The ultimate goal is to think better.